All right, total throwback video. Talking directly to the camera. It's fun. I thought, why not for a change? I have been considering the impact that positive resistance has had recently in my life. I kind of like coined that phrase for this. This is also going to relate to this book I was reading, which is Anti-Fragile, where I found the guys, it was the first time in my life where I heard a voice in my head. I couldn't stand it. He's like the most smug person I've ever heard, but he also makes a lot of great points that are really interesting. In regards to things that are in the book, he describes Anti-Fragile is, it's not just that it's resilient to things like change or to great adversity. It's that in the face of these things that are anti-fragile will actually gain benefit, which is really interesting. Because you're like, how could that work? Well, there's a good example, the case of this video. So what I was doing, the book's right over there. I don't necessarily need the book. It just would have been a great prop. But recently I was looking at the Canadian Media Fund because I'd serendipitously heard through a YouTube video I was listening to that these guys had gotten funding by them. And that's something I'd be very much interested in. Any assistance is very much welcome in a project so individually run as ours is. So I was listening to that, and then I heard them talk about the Canadian Media Fund, and I was like, what the hell is this? I'm looking into it, and first of all, it was very difficult to find. This random chance encounter, as I described, I think is unusual. I looked for accelerators before I even started doing any of this. Before I heard about this, I'd done due diligence, I'd looked for accelerators. I'd never seen anything called the Canadian Media Fund. Maybe I was looking in the wrong place. Maybe I was looking like too much Southeast Asia, but pretty sure I looked at Canada and I never found this. So one, it was difficult to find. And then in the process of more due diligence, where just because you find one of these things that might assist you does not necessarily mean that you're even eligible for the thing. And that is now one of the other barriers of entry that you're going into, is you have to discern sometimes in a labyrinthian description what it is that makes you eligible or ineligible for applying to get this grant. And I looked into that and I got through the first wave of it and I was like, okay, we actually are eligible. That's fantastic. Okay, first wave gone. It was then in the following day, it almost cracked me up. I was like, okay, that's not enough though. I need to figure out more how to actually apply for this thing. You know, I need to get this as far along as I possibly can. I knew that the opening for the official application was on the 16th, so I had time, but I still wanted to try and get everything set up so it would go as smoothly as possible. That just always helps. I figured out you need to create a government account. That was fine. That was a first step and often is a part of these kind of things. And then I found it was list of required documents. And it is no exaggeration to say, as I read through this, I started sweating. At about the 9th thing that was required in the application, I was like, all right, sure, what's one more thing? We can do that. It's worth it. It's worth it. This thing in total has 18 required documents that you need to submit, from financial records to all sorts of plan details, and your more than just your business plan, a sustainability plan, there's a diversity plan or like a community plan, all these crazy things that go into it. Now, once I'd stopped sweating and I was able to just take it all in and try and, understand maybe a little more deeply what each one of these meant, that I started to notice a lot of them are more actually just a document that you would get, or a very short summary of something, or in some cases something that might truly benefit you directly. One of which was that they required something like 2,000 characters long that they would use in press releases to talk about you. So it's showing that they're going to even have your back in that regard afterwards. I was like, oh, that's good. So to summarize from the title of the video, all this stuff, once I got past it, it felt like all these things that were so difficult and frustrating about the experience, as soon as I got a little time to, as I say, calm down, take them all in, I could appreciate that this is actually in your benefit. First, you realize that it is not actually that bad, that the time that it took you to do this wasn't even so much time. And as I was pointing out, that certain documents of these 18, which seems like a lot, are more just kind of formality. But all of this has the effect. Remember, I mentioned again at the beginning that it was very hard to find this. And then you create this kind of shroud of bureaucracy. Like, I believe one of the documents they told you to use was like, you must for your budgeting use the digital interactive media extensive study budget template. I was like, oh my God, like that kind of sentence, right? Somebody just be like, I don't know how, forget it. But that then you can understand they're doing it for a number of reasons. It's like a test of your commitment. I know people would also say that they're being thorough because it is, money of the public. This is like Canadian taxpayers that are essentially giving you their money to grow Canada in this way. So there's a lot that you would understand that makes it behave in this way, but it appears at first kind of malicious, but then at second thought, no, for those who are willing and committed to go through with the whole process, I think it's actually in your benefit. And so this also dovetails well with what I was saying earlier about anti-fragile. It's that in this case, here is an example of it is the difficulty of the process that if the entity, when faced by that, sees the potential of how that difficulty is actually strengthening it, then this entity is anti-fragile. Where there are entities that would come up built of fragility, that as soon as they encounter that, they'll just fall away from it for a number of different reasons. We don't need to go into detail, but it's that this was an adverse circumstance and it made this thing stronger, which is interesting that those kind of things occur. There's actually a lot of examples, cool examples. It's a big beastie book. But there you are. I had such an incredible experience of, let's say, positive resistance, because at the end of this, we do have a bit of a marathon now in terms of the application. The 18 documents still must be summoned and gathered up and all on the day of submission, still put into the account that I have registered there. But at least I can make a plan for it now. And as I said, not turn a mountain or a molehill into a mountain, when really, if I just stay on top of it, it's another huge, wonderful potential that we have for ourselves. And perhaps maybe you could take as a final note, sometimes the resistance is a good sign. You're like, is this difficult? That's good. That's good. That means less competition in some sense. Few will choose to travel this path. Cool. Standing up video. I'd noticed, I'm out of practice, that I used to do this. I had a mark, and this time I think I floated inwards and outwards. But what can you do? We'll improve in the next video. Thank you for watching. Don't do anything they tell you to do at the end of YouTube videos.